It's really great to see you all, but I certainly regret the reason that we're in this room and we're discussing sexual harassment. You know, when I think about it, I look at the calendar, and the calendar tells me it's the year 2021. But you certainly wouldn't know that by reading the headlines that are coming out of state government. Think about it for a moment. Women have had the right to vote for more than 100 years. We have earned and risen to high offices in government and in business. Women everywhere are leading and making a difference in their workplaces and in their communities. Yet we are still fighting to be treated with the dignity and respect that we deserve. When it comes to sexual harassment, we should all know by now the difference between right and wrong. Sexual harassment anywhere by anyone must not be tolerated. That's key here, and I want to repeat it. Sexual harassment anywhere by anyone must not, should not, and cannot be tolerated. The same goes for bullying and intimidation. It's wrong and it's unacceptable. Toxic workplaces, we've heard a lot about that lately, unacceptable. As elected leaders, it's up to us to set the example that workplace harassment will not be tolerated. Our staff, who are our future leaders, they're watching us. They watch our every move. And it's incumbent upon us to be good mentors and good role models for them. Every day, we must remember the golden rule and treat others with dignity and respect inside and outside of the state capitol. As state leaders, we have a responsibility to protect our government employees. I remind everyone that it was this Republican Women's Caucus who were the first to call on the Attorney General to launch an independent investigation into the allegations of sexual harassment by the governor. We were very, very pleased when our colleagues across the aisle followed our lead and joined us in calling for that investigation. Now today we're leading the efforts to better protect state government employees from harassment and intimidation. And we're again calling on the Senate majority to join us. In addition to our employee protection package, our conference has requested the Attorney General direct the governor's office to cease their so-called parallel review of the allegations against him. I believe everyone from the media should have a copy of that letter. What's happening now undermines the Attorney General's independent investigation, and respectfully, the AG must act immediately to end it. The executive office staff who are being interviewed as part of the AG's investigation must have every single opportunity afforded to them to cooperate fully, speak freely without fear of reprisal. The executive office cannot be allowed to continue to intimidate witnesses or impede the AG's investigation. The governor has said that New Yorkers must let the Attorney General's office do their job. Well, today we say to the governor, you must let the AG do her job too. At this time, I'd like to have my colleague, Senator Sue Serino. She's going to speak to us about her bill, which is Senate Bill number 2948.
Thank you, Senator Helming, and thank you to the media for being here today. I've been consistent in calling out bad behavior since day one, whether it was a presidential candidate, New York State's Attorney General, a sitting New York congressman, and now our governor. For me, this is not a partisan issue, this is a power issue. These incredibly disturbing allegations speak directly to a culture where power seems to protect and embolden bad actors. Enough is enough. We are women in the workplace, and to hear what other women have gone through right here in the state capitol, it really hits home and it's heart-wrenching. Think about the young women that we all employ. In the wake of the #MeToo movement, we did real work to change policies that we thought would make a difference here. But it is painfully clear that we must do more to put an immediate end and final end to the culture of corruption and secrecy that has silenced victims for far too long. Employees need access to a process they can trust to report misconduct and hold perpetrators accountable. That starts, like Senator Helming said, by establishing an independent commission to accept and review these cases. This is something I've been pushing for years, and I know one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, Senator Krueger, has a bill that would establish this in the Constitution, and that's important. But it'll take years for that to work, and work its way through the electoral system. The legislature could act on my bill, which has a majority sponsor in the Assembly today. This is a moment to set politics aside and work together to ensure that our state is a place where survivors are heard, perpetrators are held accountable, and all New Yorkers feel safe from harassment of any kind. Thank you. Oh, sorry, I'd like to introduce Senator Daphne Jordan now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Senator Daphne Jordan, and serving and representing the 43rd District. I'm proud to again stand here with my colleagues in continuing to advocate for the New York State Senate Republican Women's Caucus's legislative package focused on protecting employees and ending sexual harassment and abuse in the workplace. My colleagues and I were the first ones to call on State Attorney General Letitia James to conduct an independent, nonpartisan investigation into the serious allegations of sexual harassment made against Governor Cuomo. Our public call came after just one victim had the courage, incredible personal courage, to come forward and share what she experienced. Now, there are 8 individuals that have made serious accusations of sexual harassment, abuse, a hostile workplace, and intimidation against Governor Cuomo. Each of them must be heard, and they will be heard. While everyone is entitled to due process, even this governor, the shocking details of a troubling pattern of sexual harassment and a hostile workplace from these credible women, the majority of whom worked or currently work for Governor Cuomo, and another who works as a journalist, demands a nonpartisan investigation, just as we publicly called for weeks ago. To her credit, Attorney General James has already launched an investigation as we suggested, and I'm eager to see these findings. Earlier today, my colleagues and I wrote Attorney General James asking her to immediately direct the executive chamber to cease its widely reported effort to conduct a parallel review of the multiple sexual harassment and misconduct claims being made against Governor Cuomo. Reporting from the Wall Street Journal, the Times-Union, and the New York Post found that the executive chamber has hired a high-powered law firm to conduct a review and offered to have their lawyers sit in with staff members on interviews with appointed independent investigators. The governor's highly unusual and frankly highly inappropriate plan creates an obvious potential for witness tampering and intimidation, potential obstruction of justice, and threatens the integrity of Attorney General James's investigation, just as our letter indicated. Besides our letters to the Attorney General, we also unveiled our Employees in the Workforce Protection Package last week, a series of comprehensive proposals seeking to address sexual harassment in the workplace, and specifically state government offices. The goal of that package is enacting long overdue reforms for the state workforce to help prevent terrible acts like the ones Governor Cuomo is accused of by 8 women. My legislation, Senate Bill 5770, which is part of our package, would protect employees from retaliatory actions by an employer or co-employees by criminalizing the use of confidential employee personnel files for the purposes of harassment, intimidation, or embarrassment. Under my legislation, a person would be guilty of illegal employee retaliation when he or she, with intent to harass, intimidate, or embarrass an employee, shares confidential information within such employee's personnel file with a third party, and the employee has not affirmatively consented to the sharing of that information. This provision is critically important, timely, and it's relevant to, given the recent accusations made against Governor Cuomo. It was reported that back in December, Governor Cuomo and some of his closest advisors drafted a letter that made specific references to Lindsey Boylan's personnel records. The highly inappropriate letter was reportedly circulated to former Cuomo administration officials for their signatures. Also, there were reports that the governor's office called former employees to learn if they had heard from Ms. Boylan in what was characterized by some as an attempt to try and obtain information about her. These are repugnant acts of reprisal. They're unwarranted, outrageous attacks against Ms. Boylan's reputation, shameful attempts to try to silence her, impugn her character, and intimidate her. Such retaliatory acts are inexcusable and show the urgent need for my legislation and our legislative package. Under my legislation, these types of illegal employee retaliations that Governor Cuomo and his staff allegedly undertook would be punishable as a Class A misdemeanor. This is an important legislative remedy to stop such abusive behaviors and send a message that unethical actions such as these will not be tolerated, ever. My measure and the rest of our important legislative package seeks to ensure that every person knows that they are valued, they are respected, and they will never have to endure sexual harassment or a hostile, toxic work environment. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Senator Alexis Wyke.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Senator Alexis Wyke, and I represent the 3rd Senatorial District. And I thank you all for being here today. This is such an important topic. And again, I echo the words of my colleagues. We have requested that there was an independent investigation conducted at the first time that we heard that there were inappropriate sexual harassment allegations. It's important that we recognize that none of this can happen in any workplace. It's an unacceptable behavior. Every employee should expect to work in an environment free from harassment, discrimination, and intimidation. It is simply inexcusable for anyone to be subject to inappropriate behavior in the workplace. Employees in the Workforce Protection Package advanced by my Republican conference will protect state employees and hold those who engage in inappropriate behavior accountable. One of the pieces of legislation, the piece that I represent, would require that statewide office holders and members of the state legislature sign a certificate under penalty of perjury attesting to the individual's completion of sexual harassment training program, a training program I know that has existed for a very long time, that most of us have undergone many, many times, including the governor in his role as Attorney General and again as governor. The signed certificates shall be posted on the Senate website within 30 days of completion, so that employees and the public know that we, as the representatives of our state and our districts, have completed appropriate sexual harassment training. This is something that we serve as a role model for all of our community and our state, and it's important that everyone understands that we know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. And this kind of behavior will not be tolerated any further. Thank you so much for joining us. And Pam Helming?
Thank you, everyone, for being here. At this time, we're happy to take questions on this subject.
Senator Jordan, your bill would criminalize retaliation against employees. Senator Bernardis has a bill that would lean on the anti-harassment state law in civil court. So why do you feel it's so important for it to criminalize it, especially considering the implications for Fifth Amendment protections that might hamper an investigation of alleged retaliation?
Well, I think it should be criminalized as a Class A misdemeanor. That is up a maximum penalty of up to 12 months in prison. Perhaps it would really serve as a deterrent for this activity not to happen.
But how do you accommodate the potential that, say, if somebody were accused of it, the governor or anybody else would just plead the fifth and then they couldn't be compelled to take part in an investigation, whereas if it were maybe a civil matter, they could be?
I'd have to think about that one.
Look, my response to that would be this, right? We have two good bills, Bourne's and Jordan's. Let's bring them to the floor. Let's get the job done. Let's do something. Let's not ignore this issue, right? So bring one of the bills to the floor, bring them both to the bill, let's get the job done. Enough is enough. Next question?
When it comes to the parallel investigation, how specifically do you feel that that would be harmful? Do you feel that interviewees would be primed by whoever from the administration would interrogate them and then repeat those answers? How exactly is that harmful?
So I think it has the potential to be intimidating, right? If you're a person who's being called by the AG's office to provide answers to questions, how comfortable do you feel when lawyers hired by the governor are walking you over to that interview? How comfortable are you when they're prepping you on how to answer the questions? Look, I want you to know that not only me, but I think everyone behind me would agree, we're speaking to you today, obviously, as lawmakers, as senators, and people who want to see something done. But more importantly, I think to all of us, is we're mothers, right? We're mothers. We don't want our children to go through this. Like I said earlier, the year is 2021. Why are we still having these discussions? Why are we still seeing these inappropriate actions occur? This package of bills, you reporters hear this all the time about this is a bipartisan issue. Read the bills. They're straightforward. They're simple. They're good things that we need to do to protect our state government employees.
Also, as it relates to, I believe Sue Serino had mentioned sitting congressman, I'm assuming you were alluding to Tom Reed.
Yes.
How do you all feel he dealt with that as women in state government? And do you feel that anything different should have been done, possibly a resignation?
So I would just answer that this way, that I hope people in the federal government are looking at this package of bills that we've put forward and that they grab these bills and they adopt something similar at the federal level. Obviously, something more needs to be done. Let's get it done and let's do it.
Yes, sir. Certainly as the budget deadline approaches, all lawmakers and I'm sure the governor too has a priority list. Where would this fit on your priority list of things that need to get done as April 1st approaches?
Immediately, right? Immediately.
So, I mean, this is something that's been going on as far as in the workplace for decades. And the fact that we're still dealing with this, and the fact that it's a traumatic incident for those individuals who have to suffer through it. Don't forget, you know, when we were talking about the independent review in coordination with the investigation, individuals who've been sexually harassed in the workplace, that brings on a lot of stress. So you have to deal with your family, you have to deal with your coworkers, you have to deal with your boss, and many others. And of course, then you have a reputation. And so it's very difficult for individuals to come forward when they've been sexually harassed. It's a very traumatic event. And so the fact that this is now being readdressed, I think is a good thing, because this should not be happening. And the fact that it's still happening, it needs to be addressed. It should be a priority in addition to the budget. This is a high priority issue.
And I wonder if any of you could reach out to the other side of the aisle to see, measure the support there might be for your legislation, what the response might have been.
Yeah, we're waiting for that response. We have bill numbers. The bills are being circulated for co-sponsorship, and we certainly are looking forward to members of the majority to signing on to these bills.
And just an answer to your last question, we're passing bills each day in session that don't have to do with the budget. We can do both at the same time, so it's time to get these done right now.